ladies and gentlemen, welcome to RLCS Overtime, your one-stop shop for all things Rocket League eSports and RLCS. I'm your host, Wave Punk. I've got a Quinn Laudel, a Findable Carpet, and a Karma here with me. Karma, how are you doing?
Doing good. How are you guys?
Doing good. Thanks for being here. Carpet is on the wrong side of the desk.
I don't like it. Quinn,
get used to it.
Ooh. Quinn thinks this is a permanent fixture, and I don't know if we're gonna be able to deal with this. I don't know.
It's a permanent.
I think it was a request from Karma, probably. She's like, just Quinn, that side of the desk.
I just wanted Carpet with me.
Yeah, I think it was less about you and more about Carpet. I'm pretty sure that's how this works. Guys, we just got done with having the promotion relegation tournaments for North America and for Europe, and we have new teams qualified for the RLCS for Season 5 in both regions. Here in North America, Renegades made it back through the upper bracket, but out of style, Oceania, Justin, and Epic Johnny. We'll get to see them play in Season 5.
I mean, just the fact that everything we predicted was 100% wrong.
Completely wrong.
we had I mean, I guess not a 50-50 shot. I don't know stats very well, but the fact that we chose the only two of the 4 teams that didn't make it.
It did not make it.
Feels bad, man.
Feels real bad, man. All 4 of us, 2 with a blanket. We're just like, definitely both of these teams.
Definitely Phibian and Allegiance.
Yeah.
Neither of you had out of style Renegades?
No,
Did you?
Yeah, I had both of them.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
Those were your 2 picks?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
out of style, I mean, I've been friends with them for a while. We play in 6 minutes together all the time. Totally thought that they were going to do it. And then, I mean, Dapper. How can I doubt? I've been one of Dapper's biggest supporters since he's played. I can never pick against him.
I love Dapper. I absolutely love Dapper. But you watched Phibian go 7-0 in league play in the RLRS, and you got to give him some faith there, right?
Yeah, like how can you not cheer for a team that's like literally destroying the RLRS? And the RLRS is not easy to get into.
No, I know that. Really, Quinn? You're going to throw that on me this early into the show? Okay.
Guys, we're going to be here for like a whole hour.
Oh
This is going to be great stuff.
And he's already starting out with that. Okay.
Let's talk about Renegades first, okay? Because Dapper was absolutely incredible. These guys came through the upper bracket. We on overtime were not giving them any faith. We were saying, you know, we think this might be the time they're done. Maybe the rival series would be good for them to go down there. But no, through the upper bracket, didn't lose a series, and they stayed here.
Yeah, well, one of the things for me why I didn't have any faith is it seemed they didn't have any faith of themselves and their own roster. A lot of just sudden swaps. We see just deciding, do we want Miho, do we want Timmy, do we want Moses? And it just seemed like they weren't really confident, but something came together for them. They really came to their own and played like an RLCS quality team.
And there was just a lot that, even just watching them play throughout the season, that it was so uncharacteristic. It's like, what's going on? Even Dapper, as one of the most mechanical players I've ever watched, ever.
Yeah.
I mean, you watch the kid play 1v1s, and it's like a different game whenever I watch him play. But I still was like, where is he? I didn't see him all season. And I don't know, was there something else that you saw that I didn't? Am I blind?
I don't know. I think it was all of them, honestly. It was Dapper stepping up in terms of like scoring, and Timmy, like, he hadn't like popped off all season, right?
Sure.
It seemed like he really showed up during those games. And then Moses, like, I feel like Moses did a really solid job in defense, which is what Timmy and Dapper need, that like third support player.
Yeah.
He wasn't whiffing important clears. He was making all those amazing saves that he is known to do from his history, and I thought that really helped them to keep where they're at.
I agree. I felt like one of the problems that Renegades had the entire season was figuring out how to rotate properly. Like Moses was struggling on the offense. He was struggling to get involved offensively at all. And then when he was trying to insert himself in the offense, it seemed to break up what Timmy and Dapper were doing. So to have him stick on that back line, to have him kind of play the anchor of the sweep, seemed to be working better. And I think that was a big part of what put them through.
Yeah, I'd agree with you, especially because Moses has always been a player that, if you had to choose a player to take out of that roster, just doesn't match the playstyles, I think it's going to be Moses. I mean, usually you want a similar playstyle between all 3 players so that, you know, they're all very versatile. It doesn't matter who's on offense or on defense. But Moses just sticking out, it became weird to see him as Dapper and Timmy lost confidence in themselves. They wouldn't pass to Moses as much. You could tell Moses just really sticked out. But like you said, Moses really came into it in the series.
Yeah, I think Moses does a really good job of just allowing Dapper and Timmy to be those aggressive type players, which they really are. And I feel like sometimes when they were playing with Miho, they got caught being too aggressive because all 3 of them are those aggressive styles, which can work really well. If you're really fast and really aggressive, sometimes you can just outpace your opponent. But as Rocket League is growing, like it has been, that isn't always the style that's going to work. Once people expect that, you can start to play patient, and then the aggression kind of counters. You can get counterattacked and stuff like that. And I think Moses just does a really good job of just, you know, chilling, playing back, playing that defensive role and letting Dapper and Timmy just kind of do a two-man rotation on offense, and Moses just comes in when they need to.
Yeah, and it worked out well for them. They're going to qualify again for RLCS, but on the other side, down on the lower bracket, coming up and through it all is Out of Style. Lachinio, Epic Johnny, and Justin. Justin and Lachinio are the two players that kind of have been grabbing everybody's attention on this roster, but it really felt to me like Epic Johnny was a huge part of why they were able to qualify here and make it up and out of the rival series.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. His third man play for this team was absolutely incredible. Usually it's something you see Justin do, but as we saw Justin play more offensively, we saw Epic Johnny kind of take on those defensive roles for him, and I thought that it worked out really well for this roster.
I more just want to pose, Karma, you said you played a lot of six-mans with this roster, particularly all three of them, I imagine.
Yeah.
Our experience being able to watch and see what they're capable of is obviously a little bit minimal because this is the first time on a stage like this, and it's a lot more difficult for us to see. We don't cast the RLRS. I just want to know, like, your opinion on their playstyle as a whole, like individually. Obviously, I know Lachinio used to be super offensive, and I noticed that he's kind of more defensive now, which is what it used to be kind of really bad at. Like season 1, he was not great on defense, and it seems like he's almost kind of flip-flopped everything. Yeah,
I think they rely on Justin's mechanics defensively as well as offensively. I feel like he's a really big offense for them. I think he scores like he averages like a goal and a half a game. He's kind of their finisher. I mean, his mechanics are so good that he can bail you out of bad defensive situations and score almost any pass you hit towards him. And then I think Latch and Epic Johnny have like a similar play style where they're more midfield / defensive types, and they do a really good job of setting him up. And Johnny, I think, is really underrated in terms of like his ability to score. His mechanics are insane. He's always been a really good mechanical player, and sometimes he can just shoot the ball when he's on better than a lot of players that I've seen. It's really impressive, and it just he comes out of nowhere and will just drill it top corner.
Now you talked about Epic Johnny on the defense and kind of opening up things for Justin, but I felt like Epic Johnny was really scoring a lot of goals. He was an offensive powerhouse this weekend, and it was a big part of why they were able to qualify for RLCS, which means that we're going to see Allegiance down in the rival series here, and Phibian, the team that I think it was like we were okay. So Phibian's making it in, and then who else was kind of the way I think we were talking about it last week. And Phibian, first team to get knocked out here. What happens for Phibian now? Do they go through and just sweep again, or do they make some changes? Like this is the second time they've tried to make an RLCS and haven't been able to make it.
Yeah, I think it's a really difficult position to be in, just because it's got to be so discouraging to say, hey, you know what? We are so much better than these RS teams, but not good enough to make it to RLCS when it matters, and it's got to be heartbreaking for them, and I think that especially due to their age, it probably wears on them a little heavier than most. But we saw what happened with Cloud9 when they didn't make it. We've seen so many teams just fall down, and it only helps them more. I think that they could use another year of just kind of mental strength, working on just not giving up easy games, playing where they're strong, and just focusing on their own play style.
Yeah,
totally.
I really encourage them to stick together as a roster. It's so easy to just think, hey, I'm done. Let's finish this. Like we didn't do well. Let's break up. We know we're good enough. But I think honestly, when they are just like the fact that they went 7-0 the entire RLRS, and the only times that we've seen them really kind of fall beneath their capabilities is whenever there's a lot of pressure for the qualifiers, for the promotional league, right? So it seems it's a pattern at this point, and it really seems the pressure is their weak point. And again, I got to go with Quinn. Like I think age is a big part of that, experience as well. Lachinio's had experience in this, so he could help lead his crew through that, through just the pressure. Like he's literally been on stage and won before, which is all the pressure it takes. So I think he was able to help kind of captain his team through that. Like, hey guys, this is whatever he did. I don't know. I'm not in their comms, but I don't know. I really encourage them to stick together. I really hope that Phibian does not break up.
Karma, in your opinion, is Lachinio back?
Yeah, he has to be back, right? He's in RLCS.
Yeah, he's made it here. We'll get to see him play next season in the North American region. In Europe, though, things went a little bit more like we expected them to go in the overtime segment there. If you take a look at the bracket, the two teams that qualify, Fnatic and Team Envy, those are the teams we were expecting to make it through. Fnatic, though, coming through the upper bracket and defeating the grudge matches they had in their way. First Team Secret, the team that knocked them out, and then Team Envy, played teams that was taking their players. These guys gonna feel good.
Yeah, Fnatic, my boys. I was so happy for these guys to have the success that they did going up against Team Envy. No matter how badly performing Team Envy was throughout the whole season, it doesn't matter, because you're still going up against former world champions who on any day could just come out and bring some fantastic play. We've seen that happen so many times again. They knocked out PSG's winning record, and so for Fnatic to really come together, especially mid-series, that adaptation, that's just something special for me.
Yeah, here Fnatic just the way they showed up in the play-in was not what we were expecting. We were hoping them back when they were called the leftovers. We were hoping they would make it in then, but then they just absolutely dominate. The last time we saw them lose on an RLCS stage was that play-in. Since then, through the entire rival series, they went undefeated. They went undefeated in the promotion tournament. They're basically 9-0 as far as matches are concerned right now. These guys are on a tear, and I cannot wait to see what they do in Season 5.
There's a player that I always like watching, and that would be Maestro, and I'm really happy to see him again in a competitive stance. And actually going against a lot of his, now he's going to be in a stage where he's going against a lot of his former teammates. And, you know, he just did play against Greasy, and they beat them. And we saw a similar storyline with Farah, right? Farah and, you know, PSG taking out leftovers and doing all, like, you know, I think it was in the play-in, right? She was able to, yeah. So we see that storyline of, like, now we're getting to the point where Rocket League has, like, your ex-players, your ex-teammates, and I kind of like that, the fun little grudge matches. Those are really fun to watch. So now that Maestro's back in, along with his teammmates, you know, Siki not being in it was pretty heartbreaking to see. But I don't know, I think it's just exciting.
Yeah, that was one of the storylines I was looking forward to most this season. I've always been a WeDem Girls fan since like the very beginning. They were like the team I always cheered for. Yeah. And Remco was always my favorite right when I started. So I was looking forward to the Maestro versus Envy, Greasy replacement type story, and we didn't get to have that. So now that we'll have that next season, I'm excited for that.
And moving conversation over to Envious, you know, we're talking about Remco here. These guys had a very difficult season. Not the season that they wanted, not the season that Envious was looking for, but in the play-ins here, they were able to deliver, qualify again, and while they had some really great showings and looked like they were maybe starting to return to their former glory, it wasn't the stomping we were kind of expecting them to be. So how do we feel about Envious right now? Is the team back? Do we still have questions? I feel like I still have questions about Envious.
Yeah. Perfect way to say it. You know, there are still questions that need to be answered from Team Envy. They didn't come out and dominate like the former Envy that we know. So we're going to really need to see how they perform next season. This offseason is going to be huge for them, seeing maybe if they can work on their synergy a little bit more. It just didn't seem like they were all there, especially defensively, letting in a lot of really just absurd goals, which I didn't think was very Envy-like at all.
Yeah, I liked watching them, especially on the offense. I felt like they were really connecting with each other. They were getting some double taps, getting some good infield passes, but I don't know, rotationally and then defensively, there was still definitely some questions for me about Envious.
It's just that struggle of these names really shouldn't be making these mistakes. And just all season, every week, we question, why does this keep happening? They must be in a rut, but when it happens all season, they clearly aren't in a rut. That's just what they're doing. This is just their level right now. And to go from such a high level of like world champions to legitimately pretty much one of the worst in the league, what on earth went down? You know, what could have happened with your team? And I don't know. I think we all have questions. I definitely don't feel terribly confident in them. But the fact that they're still there, they've got an entire season's worth of league play now to prove themselves again. They've also got an entire offseason to work on it, which is where they thrived a lot in the offseason. They did really, really well. But I don't know. I'm still a little wishy-washy. Yeah,
I think that they're kind of going through that momentum struggle that we talked about earlier, which is like that Greasy and Remco, I think, have really similar play styles. And when you had Maestro instead of Devo, since they had all three of the same play style, which is like that midfield type play style, they had a lot better synergy. But since you have Devo now, who's, in my mind, like more of an offensive, aggressive player, with two midfield players, you can lack on that defensive end. So I think they're trying to figure out what rotationally fits out best for them, whether it's Greasy or Remco being that kind of defensive rock that they need to be.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me to think about, you know, like Envy, like if we were to get Maestro back on the team or something like that and take replace Maestro for Devo and they have like literally a reunion of WeDem Girls Northern Gaming of old, like it sounds cool. That sounds like that'd be fun, but at the same time, that's Season 1 Rocket League. That was a Season 1 meta that worked well, and I don't know if I could even say that team would play well. And as the scene is evolving, we've talked about this with Flipside, and now we're kind of doing the same thing with some of the Envious names, where it's like, at what point does just the fact that it's Remco, it's Greasy, stop to come into play, and we have to like really look at the results and say these results are speaking for themselves, and they're struggling to stay in the RLCS right now.
Yeah, I think that one of the things for Envy, which it makes me say that a roster change wouldn't be good for them, is that we see Remco, someone who's been, you know, historically very accurate at shooting, a great striker, and he just doesn't hit the same shots. We saw a couple, like he had a triple touch that was absolutely incredible, and then we see him kind of miss open goals at the same time. And when you have a team that just like none of them seem to be able to shoot on target time and time again, no matter how well you're playing and how many times you can open up defense, if you can't finish a ball, you know, all of it's for nothing.
Well,
Totally.
That can also come from not being comfortable with your teammates too. And it sounds weird, but when you're playing and you're completely comfortable with your teammates, you don't hesitate or second guess at all. And maybe what was happening with Remco, since his mechanics obviously are there, he could be maybe hesitating for a second or second guessing, and even that split second causes you to not be 100% accurate with a shot. So.
Totally. Well, we'll get to see how Envious improves in the offseason and as they move forward. Now, for the OCE region, we had the 2 teams qualify for land from the OCE playoffs. That was Chiefs and Pale Horse eSports. Chiefs is the former Alpha Sydney that we got to see last season, so that was great to hear them. When we come back here, we're going to take a quick break. First, we're going to hear from OCE, hear some of their interviews, and then we're going to interview Karma. So a lot of interviews going to happen here really quickly. But for now, let's hear it from the OCE boys.
Welcome to the Rocket League OCE Championship. We just finished the grand final, and I have one of the winners from Chiefs Esports Club, Torsos, here with me to do a bit of an interview. Torsos, just to start off with, how are you feeling after winning the day?
It feels terrible because I'm the biggest anchor probably in OCE history. But Jake and Drip carried really hard. This feels good for that though.
I mean, it always feels good to be carried. I know from that experience very well. You are coming through. You're going to be the second keyboard and mouse player ever at RLCS. Considering you're always the first, does that have any special meaning to you?
Not really. I don't let the keyboard affect my mindset in any way. The only keyboard players I have to compete with is in OCE, which is pretty typical.
All right, and you are going to be up against G2 Esports. Will you prefer to be up against them than PSG, and why?
I would definitely prefer to be up against G2 rather than PSG. PSG are too fast of gamers for us. I think if we just pull really well out in the boot camp and adapt to the international teams, we could have a really good chance at beating G2.
That's great. Well, I believe against G2 Esports, I think you're going to do really well, and I hope you will do. But again, congratulations, and we'll see you at the World Championship in just 2 weeks. Welcome back. We actually have a second interview as well. Kami from Pale Horse Esports, you just qualified for the RLCS World Championship for the first time. Are you excited to go through?
Yeah, I'm really stoked. I'm looking forward to playing in our NEU, see what it's like, how much different it is from OCE. I'm just stoked, I'm speechless.
Are you scared at all about playing against PSG Esports?
I wouldn't say scared, maybe a bit intimidated, but I think if we do some studying on them, watch their games, we'll be alright.
So there's never been a New Zealand player in the history of RLCS to score a single goal. Do you think you're going to be able to beat that record?
Yeah, of course. There'll be more than one, for sure. Yeah, we'll do.
Excellent. Any final words for all those thousands of bajillions of fans you have out there?
Just thanks so much for the support. It's unreal. See you in 8.
Excellent. We're going to see Kami in just a week and a half there at the RLCS World Championship. Thank you for coming along and hope to see you soon.
Well, welcome back to Overtime, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a great week. We just finished kind of all of the studio stuff here for the RLCS Season 4, and we've got the LAN coming up. But before we do that, going to talk to Karma here, who's joined us for this episode. We'll get to talk about her opinions on, you know, the LAN, the World Championship, who she thinks, those are those 3 words, is going to win. But right now, I just want to talk about you. How you doing?
Okay, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for taking the time to come and talk to us.
Of course.
Your gamer tag, Karma.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? What is that meaning for you?
Well, karma in the root of the word is, you know, what goes around comes around. So that's kind of where I picked, you know, my gamer tag. And going through things growing up, didn't have the easiest childhood. And I mean, everyone goes through stuff. So when I was younger and like emo teenage years, I was like,
Sure.
I'm going to pick something that, you know, it may be bad now, but in the future can be good. And it's kind of feminine. So I was like, I'll just go with karma. It has a deep meaning. There's a lot there. So
was this something you picked before you got into esports? Was this just like I'm becoming a gamer, or was it like I'm going to try and actually become an esports professional, so I need to like make a good brand, you know?
No, it was totally just, I was like, what could be a cool name with deep meaning? And I was like, edgy, and I was just like, oh, just take karma.
That's cool, though. It has extra meaning to you there. What is your background in esports prior to Rocket League?
Deep. I've been doing esports for a long time. So it started, I would say my esports kind of started with basketball, even though it's not an esport.
Okay.
And I was an athlete, and I played basketball at a very high level. And I had aspirations to go to college, and ended up having some health issues and was unable to play anymore. So I had to fuel my competitive energy somewhere. And my friend at the time was like, hey, you should try video games. So I started playing Call of Duty. Modern Warfare 2 was the first one I played. Okay. And I instantly was like hooked on it, and I started playing on this like MLG doubles ladder, and that's where I started. And I became like top #1 and #2 in domination, my team, and search and destroy and stuff like that. So I started playing competitively in that for PC, which wasn't really popular then because it was like all consoles. It was all console. But I was like on the PC ladder, I was #1 and #2 for a while, and I continued that all the way through Black Ops. And then I thought the game kind of turned bad. That's when they added like the boosting and the jumping off of the ground. And I was like, not into that.
A lot of people didn't like the Jetpacks edition there. So going from Call of Duty, what was next?
Hearthstone.
Okay.
My friend introduced me to Hearthstone. I was addicted to that just like Call of Duty. And when I get addicted to something, I'm like super into it. So I got in Hearthstone, and I started winning some tournaments and playing at a high level. And my stream really took off when I almost qualified for BlizzCon. I was 1 game away from qualifying for BlizzCon.
Oh man, so
close.
And
I lost by 1 HP.
So close.
I was 1 off lethal. So I started playing that competitively. And then I started, you know, becoming frustrated with the game and the RNG element, and then I found Rocket League. Okay. Like towards the end of my Hearthstone aspirations. So it's all been kind of PC games up until this point. What drew you to Rocket League, which is, you know, mainly a controller game? It got big because of it being free on the PS4, and you know now most of the pros play on PC, but we still all play with controllers and stuff. What drew you to Rocket League? Just the amount of fun I was having with my friends. I had never played a controller game before. So it was playing on a controller was really new to me. I mean, I played Smash Brothers when I was really young with all my friends in my neighborhood, or like the original Smash Brothers on Nintendo. Yeah. But I didn't really play PlayStation games. I mean, I played Madden sometimes and FIFA with my friends, but I wasn't like intense on a controller. I just kind of did it. So that was really a new learning curve for me to be able to play on the controller all the time and kind of master the stick element of it, like the control with your stick. So that was like one of the harder things for me to do. For sure, yeah, and I mean, like with Rocket League, it is a completely its own genre, right? There's very few people talk about being like it's not a racing game, you know, but it's not a sports game either. Whereas, and so Rocket League is this kind of new thing. Were there any skills that you picked up in Hearthstone or in Call of Duty that you felt like really kind of gave you an edge as you tried to go pro in Rocket League? I think that in both games, dedication and perseverance through like games in general, and the amount of work that it takes to become a professional or close to the professional level is like that mindset of, okay, it's going to be a grind. You're going to have to put this amount of hours in, and the ability to be able to kind of appreciate, you know, segmenting your practice, like learning what you're taking from elements of when you're playing. So like you can't just mindlessly play and get better. I usually play a lot, and I'm mindful when I'm playing of what works, what doesn't work, and trying new things and things like that. So I think that helped. And Call of Duty is really about like awareness of your teammates, which I think is an important element in Rocket League, one of the most underrated ones, and reaction time and stuff like that.
For sure. What you talked about, you alluded to, kind of like segmenting your practice. What does an average practice day look like for you?
It depends. I usually segment different days throughout the week on things, but a lot of the time for me is spent in custom trainings when I'm not streaming and free play. Like I make custom training packs to be able to train certain mechanics on different days. Like some days I'll just work on dribbling for like an hour or two. Other days I'll work on like just redirects. And then the other times I'm working reads off the wall. Like I just do different mechanic practice in different days of the week.
Cool. Yeah, it's cool to hear. Like you're taking the overall concept of Rocket League. Because I feel like everyone looks at Rocket League and they're like, I just want to get better, right? But you're breaking it down to like its little elements and saying, I'm going to practice, I'm going to perfect this one thing, and even like maybe going into ranked and not playing just to win, just playing to practice those elements against other people. That's really cool. And you've had on and off success on Rocket League teams. You've played in a few seasons of RLCS, didn't quite make it in this season, but last season we got to see you at the desk at season 3, and you got to be an analyst. That was a really fun opportunity there. Talk to me about your experience at LAN.
Yeah, it was amazing. Just going in front of the cameras for the first time with all the lights in front of you is really intimidating. Like it's really bright. Getting your makeup done is intimidating for like someone like me who doesn't wear a lot normally. Getting it all on me is like, you look different. It's kind of intimidating.
Was that your first time having somebody else do your makeup?
Yeah. Well, and Sweden. I did Sweden before, or no, Sweden was after.
It was after. Yeah, but it was still like right there, very close. It was like a month apart.
But that was my first time. But I loved it. I liked meeting everybody for the first time at LAN was great, and then doing an analyst part and trying to spread my knowledge and see if other people agreed, disagreed, and kind of, I guess, educate people on what my opinions are, which was pretty cool. Hopefully it was received well, but
yeah, no, it seemed like you had a lot of fun. I mean, we brought you back here to talk to you about this year's LAN, so this will be a lot of fun too. Get to talk about that a little bit more as we move on here. But yeah, it's been great. What is Rocket League's had some big updates come out recently. What's the autumn update came out recently. We've had some new game modes, some new cars. What's been your favorite feature that's been added to Rocket League recently?
That's a tough one. I'd probably say the Skyline.
Yeah?
I don't know. I like adding the new cars where I can play them for a little and I switch off. But I think just the Skyline's look is really cool. And I like the Endo too. I think that looks really pretty. But I couldn't quite get used to the hitbox because it's so curvy in the front. The Skyline's much more square. And I don't know, it just looks pretty.
It is. I've been playing a ton of Skyline. Like, I'm not good at the game, but I really enjoy the Skyline. It's just a lot of fun.
Skyline's fun.
If you could add any item to the game, what would you add?
Oh, that's so tough. I would like them to add like personal, like maybe community flags.
Okay,
like streamers and stuff like that. I think that'd be really cool. But if I'm going like neutral point of view, I'd probably say like a Lamborghini or a Bugatti or like some super sports car that I like.
That would be pretty sick. I mean, it's close to the Endo. Maybe give it like a more square hitbox so you can play competitively, but have it be pretty. This has been a lot of fun, Carmen. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us. Any shout outs you got before we get back to the show?
I owe Mystic a shout out.
Okay.
He shouted me out at DreamHack, so shout out to Mizzy. And Axel Toss and Brandon. Hi.
Lovely people there, our host Axel Toss. So thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us. When we come back to overtime, we're going to bring everybody else back and talk about the World Championship. It's coming up here in just like under 2 weeks or something. It's crazy. We're going to break down all the teams, everything that's going to happen with the LAN when we come back here to overtime. Well, welcome back to Overtime, ladies and gentlemen, and it's finally time to talk about the World Championship. It's going to happen in Washington, D.C. Second LAN we've had where OCE gets to play. We got 2 teams there. We can take a look at the bracket. What does it look like? Who's here? Chief ESC and Pale Horse going to be facing off against PSG and G2, and then some crazy matchups. Round 1, Method and NRG face off against each other. Ghost faces off against Maga. Oh my goodness, it's crazy.
I know, I was super stoked to see OCE last season. It was their first season here, and I'm even more excited to see them again. They essentially got to come, they got to compete. They did better than everybody expected. They got to learn a whole bunch, then bring it back to their region, compete for a whole season. I'm really excited to see how they start panning out against our teams.
Yeah, they learned a lot actually from playing against us, and so it's interesting to see how they're going to be able to bring that into the new LAN. I'm really more excited to see all these new teams in the RLCS. There's so many teams who haven't made it in. Flipside's one of them, and it's going to be weird to have a LAN without them, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. First LAN we've had where all the teams have a sponsor, all the teams are signed somewhere, and we got some brand new faces like Cloud9.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see how they play, and just some format things about how this is going to work. The first day, it's going to be 6 games that are all in the upper bracket, so nobody gets eliminated on the first day. If you're cheering for a team and they lose on the first day, don't worry. Tune in on the second day, they're there again, and then on Saturday, they're calling it Elimination Saturday. We'll see 4 teams get knocked out, rounds 1 and 2 of the losers, as well as the semis of the upper bracket will happen that day, so that'll be a very, very packed day. And then Championship Sunday, it's going to be the remaining 6 matches, 1 upper final, all lower, and then the grand finals. The possibility of a reset, because this is a double elimination bracket, so you could possibly have 14 games in that final.
Oof. That is a lot.
Yeah, we've had 2 bracket resets. We've never had them go the full length of all 14 games. But the last 2 LANs, I believe it was, yes, the last 2, the lower bracket came up in 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Flipside and Team Envy.
Or Northern Gaming at the time, but now Team MV, absolutely. Yeah. So that's kind of how things will go. That's how things will play out, and we want to just kind of give everybody some history, some details. And, if this is your first season watching, who's been there before, who's the big dogs in the house. There's some teams, like you said, there's some new ones, but then there's also some returning ones. Maybe not as many as you expect, though. We have 3 teams, only 3 teams, 3 organizations, 3 names that have been at this LAN before, and it's Mocket, NRG, and Chiefs, actually, because they were Alpha Sydney last season, but they are the exact same team, got picked up by a new org, same exact team returning here. And I want to start talking about Mocket. This team it's their org. The org has been at every single LAN for all 4 seasons of RLCS, and they've had very, very drastically different rosters every time. But it's been the org has been there, and they've been into the finals twice. Other than Flipside, they're the only team that's done that.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird how Mocket has had so much success at LAN and still hasn't won one. Sucks, I guess, right? I mean, getting into the finals every single season, that's not the finals, except for the first, the last 2. I mean, that's still a huge achievement. Yeah. That is something like no other team can say.
It's like every time Mocket's in a LAN, it feels like everyone always overlooks them and doesn't really consider them like a top team, and then all of a sudden they just come up through the weeds and are in the finals. It's
Yeah, and this season, Pashy took a break from the Mocket organization, went over to Gale Force in season 3, didn't pull it off. Feels like he's like he learned his lesson at this point. He's like, okay, I'm gonna stick with Mocket because Mocket's where I get to land, and he's back in it again, and he's looking better than ever before. Pashy is having he has heated up so much, especially in the playoffs in the last week of week 5. So Mocket, not only have they been to LAN every time, they've been to the finals twice, and if there ever was a season where I felt like really comfortable with saying Mocket's got a good chance at winning all of this, it's this season.
Yeah, I mean, Pashy said it himself. This is the best he's ever felt on any Mocket roster. Any roster he's played in Rocket League, this is the best he's ever felt. And so going into this LAN, that's going to be crazy because he has just blown up, taking that Golden Striker award from Niels Cook just prior to his nose.
Last week.
Yeah, that was something.
He wasn't even in the top 5 before that last week, and then he took
How many
number
goals
1
did he score?
spot.
Something like 15 or?
I don't want to say the number and be wrong, but it was too many.
I'm probably wrong, but somewhere around there.
I mean, just to kind of speak on Karma's point, just overlooking a team, especially Mocket, because I think the other but what happened is they were almost always a completely new roster every season. So it's very easy to be like, they haven't been together long, they're probably not going to be that great. But what it always is it's still a roster of incredibly talented players who essentially, once they make it, feel like I need to prove my point, right? I mean, even just talking to Mystic last season, he was kind of one of those players too that's like, I want to prove to everybody where I belong. I want to prove that I could do this. And when you see players that are like that, you generally will see them surprise everybody when the pressure's on because they're not really worried about the pressure. They're just worried about performing game by game, and that's usually where I feel like Maka is.
I mean, and if you want to talk about a gatekeeper team. We used to talk about flip side. Now at this point, 2 lands in a row, it's been Maka that you've had to defeat at the end to win the title. So at this point, if there's any team you can look at as and call them a gatekeeper, I feel like it's Maka.
Well, and they also are on that easier, quote unquote, in my opinion, easier side of the bracket. They have like that upset potential side of the bracket where Gale Force hasn't been as dominant as they used to be during the off season. They've kind of slowed down a little bit. Then you have Ghost, which is kind of like an unexpected team from North America that no one really was like, oh yeah, they're definitely going to land. There was some even speculation within the scene that they might not even make top 8. So it's like to see them doing so well and going to land, they're kind of an unpredictable team on that side of the bracket as well. And on the other side of the bracket, you have NRG, Cloud9, Method, and PSG. Yeah. Like the top 4 teams, most people would say in the world, all on the same side of the bracket.
Totally. And talking about NRG, this is one of the other teams that, like, you know, they as a team have been to LAN every single season as well. The first season it was under the Kings of Urban banner, but then they got picked up by NRG, and they have been fan favorites. Just that they are so happy, such positive people on the stage. But they have had a really rough run. In season 1, they had 2 losses and were straight out. In season 2, they got 1 win. They swept Genesis down in the lower bracket, but other than that, 2 losses and out again. Both of those seasons knocked out by Flipside, who's not here this season. And in season 3, the best performance we've seen from them, they ended in 3rd, coming all the way through the upper bracket, and then dropping down in the lowers and losing there, but coming in 3rd place. Best run they've had yet, in a good position to try and do it again. But this is the first season they're going to come in not as the North American playoff champions.
Yeah, and for that reason, I'm going to say I don't really have the highest hopes for NRG at this lane. It feels like there's something that's just not quite clicking for them right now, having some struggles. Usually I feel like NRG goes all the way through the season playing incredibly well and peaks right before the end of the season, but that was not the case this time. So I just don't feel confident, you know, especially with the extended duration break. Right before the LAN, these guys are really going to have to figure it out.
What I think makes NRG so fun and kind of easy to root for, especially as a North American fan, is each player has somehow made a stake or a label for themselves individually. Right? Jacob, just would become like the wild card. He just does really weird stuff, an amazing support player. Fireburner, the whole meme of 50-50s, he just doesn't lose them. He's so good at them.
90-10s.
And Garrett G, he was literally on a highlight reel every single week for like all of season 2 and 3 pretty much. He was just, he was one of the best strikers in the league for nearly 2 whole seasons. So individually, even if you're just fans of people, you'll accidentally be a fan for NRG, and then you just become a fan of the team because, as you said, they're like just a happy-go-lucky team to a degree. Mostly Jacob, just an adorable dude. So they're such nice people too.
Yeah, one of the good things about the LAN environment is that it doesn't matter how you play on day 1. Essentially, your first day, you can play like garbage. Terrible, and lose the first game, the first series. And then it just matters how you play on the day you're playing, right? So NRG could have an off season, but you can't really count them out because they've been through so much, they have so much experience that all they have to do is pull together really good on one day, like arguably Northern did last season, and just pop off that day and they'll be all set. So
yeah, and I want to, talking about teams that had, that have been here before and that maybe didn't have as good of a performance, but still have a good shot. Talking about Alpha Sydney last season, okay, they defeated Denial. Nobody expected, James said that the Alpha Sydney said that OCE as a region wouldn't win a single match, and because they beat Denial, he got a pie in the face. It was great and it was funny. I enjoyed watching it. But they go out, they defeat Denial, and then they lost to the 2nd and 4th place teams, okay? Which, when you look at just overall, like where they ended up, like those are 2 very top caliber teams that went all the way. One was in the finals that they had to face off against. Like, both OCE teams had a very rough run of the teams they had to face off against. So, like, what do we feel about Chiefs and just Pale Horse Esports and OCE in general's chances at this lane, especially in comparison to season 3?
Yeah, I think that the bracket's going to be a little bit easier for them, but I think that the way the meta has developed in North America, especially, it has become so much more compact. The way that players are playing, just goals in general are much more difficult to get than they were maybe seasons before. And I think whereas EU has become a lot stronger on offense, I think that's going to be a struggle for OCE.
Totally. I mean, thoughts about G2 versus Chiefs? It's a round 1 matchup here. I feel like a lot of the G2 finally back here. Kronovi's going to be playing for that spot, for that #1 spot again. He hasn't been to this land since the very beginning, but they have to face off against Chiefs right off the bat. And just Carpet, how do you feel about this matchup?
I'm not gonna lie, I'm scared for the G2 boys. I mean, I had a lot of faith in an OCE last season, and I was really, really happy, which is how they performed, and I have even more this season. I think for the last week, every single OCE team was like a game away from each other or something nuts. There were like a lot of tiebreakers. Everybody was neck and neck. So these teams have had to deal with some tight competition, and they still came out on top. And just with the knowledge they had learned last season, and when you see certain, I like using Ghost Gaming as a kind of an example because I feel like their playstyle is just a little bit different from everyone else in North America. I always want to attribute a lot of that to Classics just because he, for some reason, is one of the more aggressive physical players that we'd seen. Maybe not as much lately, but for a while, he just like loved bumping people for no reason. He was like always at midfield just being a nuisance. But I think if OCE has something unique and different about their playstyle that people aren't prepared for, especially with how kind of prep teams are getting and how ready they are, like there's a really good chance they're just like, we just keep letting goals, and I don't know why. Like G2 could be caught off, and I know they can get in their own head sometimes. And if they're not ready to adapt mid-series to a team that might counter them, or have a play style that doesn't bode well for them, they could have a tough time.
One thing you can say is in OCE's favor is when you're playing against a team, sometimes this happens in ranked, when you're playing against a team where you're expecting a certain level of competition, and they don't quite meet that level of competition. They do some things that are unexpected. Like you'll hear sometimes a lot of pros say, why would he challenge that? Or why is he going for that type of shot? OCE has that type of advantage where they aren't playing the typical style that North America and Europe are used to. So maybe they can catch some of the teams off guard, and that they have that advantage going for them. But I agree, I'm kind of worried for G2 because of their inconsistencies they've shown lately. They're all extremely talented. They can do extremely good things at one point, and then they can be kind of question marks on the other. So I know that they're going to be practicing really hard, just talking to Kronovi and telling me how many hours he's putting in before the LAN. I think they're going to be coming out prepared. And PSG, you could kind of say the same thing.
Sure.
It's PSG's first LAN. All three of those players, other than the Toronto LAN that just happened, had never played in the LAN environment before.
Well, Farah had before. He was at the last LAN with the
Farah, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
so Bluey and Chaussette, you're right.
Yeah.
And but coming all the way to Washington, being in front of on the big stage with the crowd against you. I mean, the OCEs are usually the crowd favorite, right?
Yeah.
People get all hyped up for the OCE teams, so you never know. Upsets can happen in Rocket League. That's what makes it so great.
Sure, and I think for G2 situation, like they have a world champion in Kronovi who's been struggling to get back there. They have Rizzo who's been to LAN a few times as well, but hasn't had any real substantial success. But they've got those veterans. But then they have the crazy man, JNaps himself, a rookie this season, the North American MVP here. Cannot wait to see how this guy plays in the LAN environment because he's been dynamite online. And this helps me transition to talking about something else that's unique, I feel like, about this season in LAN and how many incredible rookies we have coming here that are playing at LAN for the first time.
Now, don't get me wrong. I want G2 to perform out of their minds. I would love to see that week 1 G2 that we saw when they were being so super creative with their passes, kind of at the forefront of what the meta has become, really making sure that they utilize all their individual skill. I mean, we can all talk about the wave dash JNaps pass that I think caught us all off guard, and we talked about it for weeks. I would love to see them all do that at their peak, but as Carm had said, their inconsistency has always been such a struggle. Some weeks, one of them pops off. Some weeks, one of them just really falls flat a little bit and is quiet. Some weeks, they all are just bumping into each other and they don't really know where to be on the field.
Yeah.
I would love more than anything to do it. And just to kind of talk on the rookies, I mean, JNaps, an absolute monster. His first time here in RLCS, and he's one of the best statistical players out there. But he is with a long list of players that have proven themselves.
I don't think it's like with G2, like the issue is a team issue, not a personal mechanical issue. JNaps is an absolutely incredible player, and as far as like dynamite rookies go, people who are coming to LAN for the first time, we can talk about Bluey from Europe. This guy is absolutely monstrous in the way he plays. You can talk about Gimmick, you can talk about Squishy, Torment, Chaussette, a lot, Magnus, Metz, JNaps, Freaky. All these guys are names that we've seen in season so many times, but this is the first time they're going to be playing. Cannot wait to watch these guys play, especially look at the stuff Bluey does.
And I think an important point to bring up is the fact that we actually have a lot more LANs going on now outside of the RLCS. While these guys might be new to the RLCS, seeing the new, they haven't competed at RLCS LAN, these guys have competed on a stage before in a LAN setting. They're not going to be total noobs, so expect to see JNaps coming in hot. I mean, that guy's proven he can play in a LAN setting. I don't think he's going to be intimidated in the slightest by the RLCS.
And I just remember Bluey also played at DreamHack Sweden.
And so I think think also
He was on
Infinity.
Infused. Yeah, and he was on Gfinity as well, so
Yeah, so
he's had lane experience before.
They have the experience playing in a lane environment, but playing in front of as many people as will be at the RLCS lane, and with how many viewers there are online as well. Which I mean, it's maybe easy to forget about that when you're in the game. You're not thinking about the number of people that are watching online, but it's just such a big stage. So guys, it's been cool to talk about the teams and talk about who's going to be playing and who's new and all that stuff. But I know what everybody wants to hear is like, who do we think is going to win? So when we come back, we're going to quickly talk about the thing again and then just give you guys all of our predictions. All the predictions on what's going to happen. It's going to be fun when we come back here to Overtime. Welcome back to Overtime. Ladies and gentlemen, talked about the World Championship and how everything's going to go down, which teams are here, which teams are new, which players are new, and now we're going to give you our bold predictions that don't matter, but you know, they're fun. They're great. Here's the bracket.
Mine are more italics. They're not bold. Mine are italic predictions.
I have an underlined predictions. Yes, that's for sure. Yeah. Okay, Karma, you said that one of these sides of the brackets was more difficult than the other. Can you show it to the
I would say that bottom side looks stacked. If you're picking two of the top teams from North America, you're probably going to say Cloud9 and RG. If you're picking based on this season, top two teams from EU, PSG and Method. So that bottom bracket looks group of death.
Yeah, the bottom side of there is just awful. Not the side you want to be in at all, but you know what? It's going to happen. Someone has to go through it. Method and RG going to face off round number 1. How crazy is that? So what we're going to do here, we haven't done predictions this way before, and this should just be fun. I'm excited to do this.
Boy.
I'm just going to tell you, here's the prediction we're going to do. We're going to start with the dark horse prediction, okay? And then we're just going to show up, and then we're just going to yell at each other about why we think each other is wrong. It's going to be awesome. Okay?
We don't know each other's.
We do not know what each other picked. Okay, I know what I picked. I don't know what they picked. So this should be fun. So the people on the desk: Quinn, Carpet, Karma, myself. The predictions for the dark horse teams are. Haha, yes. Wait. Wow. Okay.
Hey, at least they're different. I like to see that.
There's 4 completely different teams. I kind of expected to be. Here's the one thing I want to clarify. This land, there's not really any real dark horses. Like, everybody is really, really good. And the thing is, because of what we talked about last segment with NRG having kind of a lackluster end of their season for the first time in RLCS history, gotta consider NRG to be a dark horse. But I still think they're gonna do well, so they're my dark horse.
Okay, fair point. I mean, I do think Mocket, kind of. I mean, they just came out of nowhere.
We just talked about them being the gatekeepers, okay?
Yeah. No. You said they were the gatekeepers. I didn't. Okay.
They've been to the finals twice.
What qualifies a dark horse, though? Because an OCE team, how far do they have to go to be a dark horse for you? Like successful dark horse.
I gotta agree with Wave. There's there's really no true dark horse. For me, the definition is I just think they're going to outperform what everybody expects.
Okay.
Do you think you're
so
just
you
going
think
off
they're
of
going to win?
You going off of thinking that they're going to beat G2?
I don't think they're going to win because we picked winners. I think this is the dark horse. I think this team is going to catch everyone off guard. I do think that there's a pretty solid chance, at least a bigger chance than everyone expects, for them to win against G2.
Okay.
I do think they still need to bring their A game for sure, but then from then on, beating G2 in round 1 will only make them feel better. And I think that just between their experience last season and them performing as well as they did, and then moving forward into this season when what they've learned, I really do think that they're going to catch a lot of teams off guard.
Yeah, I got Ghost for me. I think Ghost has the potential to beat Mocket. They could beat Gale Force. They have that weird play style that nobody expects. No one expected them to make land off the beginning.
Demolition Derby.
And here they are. So I think, I think Ghost could do it.
If there's ever a team, if there's a team right now that we could look at and being like, just they feel like a dark horse, I could definitely see Ghost being that.
So why should you pick NRG?
The team, because I like it's more interesting than picking Ghost, but also the NRG pick is that I think NRG is going to do well, where Ghost, I'm not as certain.
Ghost for me, the reason why I can't give him the dark horse is because I don't know what is going to happen to him. At all. Ever. Like, there's no idea. They could be great, they could be terrible, they could be really just middle of the pack, and it wouldn't surprise me. It's not a team I think is going to do fantastic, which is why I think for the dark horse team I went with Mock. I think Mocket's going to actually have a run through the bracket, but...
Which is funny, because for Ghost, I agree with you. I think they're unpredictable, but on all spectrums. But then you see G2, they're either going to be almost at the top or at the bottom, right? It's like you have the teams that are either just totally on or really don't know what they're doing, it feels like, and just like a kind of a semblance of a team.
Sure.
But then Ghost, I feel like they've had inklings of every single level where like they might not really be working together, and then somewhere I feel like they could beat any team. Sometimes where they're just doing, pretty good, winning, best of 5s in game number 5. I think that's a pretty good pick, to be honest.
Okay, so the dark horse picks, understood there. Let's move over to which teams we think will be upset. Not which team is going to be upset, or which team is going to be doing the upsetting, because that's basically what a dark horse team is. The other team, which team do we think is going to do what everyone thinks is going to do well, but we personally think actually is going to surprise everybody by not doing well. And everybody's upset pick is, G2. You pick G. So you think G2 is gonna? You think everybody? Nobody. Who thinks G2 is gonna do well? The G2 fanboys.
I mean,
we just got talking. We just got done talking about how G2's still got a lot to prove right now.
Some people really think G2 is coming in hot, and I'm not saying that I agree with them because I very clearly don't. But I've seen the hype for it. Really, G2 did have a quite a solid season, and they did have some great performances. So I do think people are actually cheering for them quite a lot. I still, G2.
I think it's weird to call G2 an upset when they're in the 4th seed coming in from the region. But
I mean, Method.
Okay, so I predicted NRG to be the dark horse team. First team they're playing is Method, who everyone's really hot on right now. So clearly, ergo, Method's going to lose to NRG.
Do you think? Do you think they're going to underperform in the lower bracket as well?
I don't know. Like they can make a run through the lower bracket and like 5th or something. Like that's I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Really?
In the lower bracket. We'll see. I'm just going off the NRG thing. Can you? That's.
We'll see.
I gotta ask Karma. PSG.
Yeah.
PSG upset. Really?
PSG upset.
Yeah. Okay.
Really?
Listen, they're 4th seed. They were number 1 the entire league play, and they're coming in 4th seed.
But did you see them at Gnarly? I mean, they went all the way to the finals against Cloud9.
Yeah, I did, but
can we stop calling it
RLCS is a different stage.
She's right.
RLCS is a a different stage. They're never going to experience anything like this before. The pressure is on them. They're a relatively new team.
Longest undefeated team in RLCS had one bad week, and you're saying they're the upset team at this point.
Yeah.
Okay.
I am. They're
you also said Method are the upset team. It's like
because they have to face NRG. They have to face NRG, man.
So PSG would have to play Cloud9. What's the difference?
But PSG's gonna win the whole thing. Are you kidding?
So they're beating Cloud9.
Oh yeah.
So why wouldn't Cloud9 be your upset team?
No, because it's Method, because they're facing NRG.
But Cloud9's number 1.
You don't understand. We'll see.
We'll see. It's the cop out of all predictions. That's what I just went for, guys. Which team do we think is going to win the world championship? That's the prediction everybody really cares about here. Yep. And this is the bold one. This is the one that after the RLCS we're gonna come back on overtime and we're gonna be like, all right, so what you guys pick, and we're gonna nail people to the wall for it. Everybody's prediction for the world champion is Two Cloud9 votes.
Karma, let's go. Boom, box.
The Cloud9 fans there. I still think it's PSG. I've been on the PSG train all week, all season. Love them. I believe in Fair and the boys.
You really don't have any faith in Cloud9?
I don't know. I think it could be Cloud9.
Did you see the squishy ceiling shot?
I did. But I really
Did you see the
team
lot
plays.
ceiling shot? Don't even give me that.
Did you see the Bluey shot?
Yeah,
let's talk right now.
coexist
But
peacefully.
like Cloud9's
Not if one has to
redefining the way Rocket League's played.
They
are playing Rocket League exactly the way if someone like me were to describe how it should be played. That's what Cloud9 is doing. They're passing to each other. Every hit is towards each other. They know when to take time. Their mechanics are all insane. They're all at 1,000,000 miles an hour playing. I mean, Gimmick is like just insane. He's
I agree.
incredible.
I absolutely agree that Cloud9 is redefining Rocket League right now, and I think that PSG is matching them better than any other team right now. And I just love the PSG storyline. Part of this is faith. Part of this is that I want them to do it. But I do think I could definitely see. I believe Cloud9 PSG in the finals. PSG takes it.
That just blows my mind. I really cannot understand it. Cloud9 is so good at keeping possession of the ball, like all that cool bluey stuff. You're not going to see it.
No, I don't think it's going to happen. I think PSG's got this.
I got Method.
Talk to me about Method. Why is Method going to do this?
A Method, they pride themselves into being potentially one of the fastest teams in the world. And when you're going against a team that relies a lot on passing and positioning and making sure they get to the ball first, that's where they can really put a thorn in teams like Cloud9. Where I do think Cloud9, the way they approach the pitch is generally the most effective way. But when you have people like Magnus Metz and a lot, when they're at their A game, they're almost able to outpace every team they've gone against all season in the Europe region, at least in some way, whether it be in passing and demolitions, and just getting to the ball, winning 50-50s. And I think that's the playstyle that kind of counters the one that is what everyone claims, or not claims, kind of is the effective Rocket League playstyle. I think when you just go for raw speed, it really puts a dent in that. And if they can't adapt to it, Cloud9 and teams like that are really good at those tactical.
I would agree. I would agree with Carpet. I think the way to beat Cloud9 is to be as fast as they are and intercept their passes.
Are you copping out? You're no longer at Cloud9 now?
I don't think Method can do that.
Everything Carpet just said is true.
That's the way to do it, but I don't think that they can do that.
And good, but they're going to lose to NRG in the upper bracket until out of the tournament. So that's what's going to happen to Method right there.
We'll see.
Guys, it's been a great episode of Overtime. We've had a great time just yelling at each other about all sorts of things. It's been a great time.
Thank you for having me.
Overtime.
I don't yell. This is my normal
Karma,
speaking
thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate all of your input there. Ladies and gentlemen, next time we'll see you guys. It's going to be at the World Championships at the National Harbor MGM in Washington, D.C. Get your tickets. Be there. I want to see you. Come say hi. We always love it when you guys say hi. So definitely stay tuned. Be there. Twitch.tv/Rocket League is going to be awesome. We'll have a great time. See you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.